So what I'm really curious about is, first of all, would you call yourself an anti-racist?
Yes, I would call myself an anti-racist. I'm opposed to racist points of view and those who proliferate them. You know, I try to educate people so that, you know, there's only, first of all, there's only one race. You know, race is basically a man-made construct. There's
Right.
human race. You and I are the same race. You and everybody else and I are the same race. So there's only one race. So to be a racist is to be against yourself, to be against humanity at the end of the day. So yes, I'm definitely an anti-racist. I'm a pro-harmony person, so that all the different people who belong to this one race can get along.
So the reason I'm asking you that is that I've been thinking about that myself for a few years, because people ask me the same question, right?
Right.
And today I would say no. Actually, I'm not racist, obviously, but I prefer not to call myself anti-racist for the same reason I don't call myself atheist, because atheism doesn't build any churches. It's not for something. It's not pro anything. It's just anti, right?
Anti is against.
Yeah. So that was why I was curious about, because I bet you've given these kind of topics a lot of thought, and I was wondering how you think about that. And I don't just want to jump into the topic of anti-racism or racism, because I don't want to assume that everyone that is listening right now knows your story, and it's an amazing story as well. And I believe it started in a bar after a gig in the same year I was born, 1983, right?
Yes, that's correct. The story didn't start there, but the bar incident happened there, yes.
So where did it start? Take it from the top.
Okay, take it from the top.
Mm-hmm.
I'm 61 years old. I was born in 1958. And 3 years later, I started traveling overseas in 1961. And my father was U.S. Foreign Service. And, you know, so we were a U.S., an American diplomatic family serving in the American embassy abroad, many different countries. You go to a country, you're there for 2 years, and then at the end of your 2-year assignment, you return back home here to the States. You're here for a few months, maybe a year, and then you get reassigned to another country abroad. So every 2 years, you know, we'd come home for a little while and then get reassigned to another country. Now, when I started, you know, kindergarten, elementary school, my overseas, my classes were filled with kids from all over the world. Every embassy in those countries, all of their children, we all went to the same school. So if you opened the door to my classroom and looked in, you would say, this looks like a United Nations of little children, because that's exactly what it was. My classmates were Nigerian, Egyptian, French, Italian, German, Japanese, Russian, Swedish. Whoever had an embassy in those countries, all of their kids went to the same school. That's what I grew up around. So at that young age, I'm taking all that in. There was no difference. We all were kids. That was the norm to me. The term multicultural did not even exist back then. In fact, I remember when the term first came out, it was multi-cultural. Now it's all one word. It was the norm to me. But when I would return home, back here to my own country, the United States, I was either in all Black schools or Black and white schools, meaning the still segregated school or the newly integrated school. And there was not the amount of diversity in my classroom that I had overseas or that we have today. It was just Black kids or Black and white kids. You know, maybe one Asian, perhaps, or maybe one Hispanic, but that was it. Now today, you walk into a city classroom, people from all over, like I had it when I was overseas back in the 60s. So literally, growing up overseas, I was living about 12 years into the future, because that scenario had yet to come to my country. When it did, I was already prepared. Unfortunately, many of my peers were not prepared for that kind of diversity. So I saw what the future was. I didn't realize it, of course, at the time. To me, it was just the norm. So I could not understand racism when I came home. It was a foreign thing to me. I did not understand how people would look at me and see my skin color and make judgments about my intelligence, about my worthiness, about my even being a human being. That was totally foreign to me because people who looked exactly like my fellow Americans, my white fellow Americans, whether they were my friends, excuse me, from the American embassy, or my little French friends, my German, Swedish, Australian friends, they didn't treat me like that. So why are my own fellow countrymen who look just like that discriminating against me? That was the beginning of the journey. And I formed a question at the age of 10. And that question was, how can you hate me when you don't even know me? And now, for the next 51 years, I've been looking for the answer to that question. That's how the journey started.
And what happened when you were 10 years old to form that question?
Well, we had just returned from overseas, and I was in a predominantly white school. I was in 4th grade, age 10, 1968. There was a little black girl in the 2nd grade. So I didn't really see her because I'm in 4th grade. So all of my friends were 4th and 5th graders. And many of my guy friends, male friends, were members of the Cub Scouts, and they invited me to join. So I joined, and we had a parade, and I was the only black participant in this parade. And the streets were lined with nothing but white people cheering us and waving. Everything was going well. And we reached one point in the parade where suddenly I was getting hit with bottles and rocks and soda pop cans and just, little pieces of debris from the street by just a small group of spectators off to my right. I remember it being a couple of kids, maybe my age, maybe a year or so older, and some adults. I figured maybe it was the kids and their parents. But when I was being hit, it did not cross my mind initially that I was the target of this. I just thought, something is wrong with those people over there. They don't like the Scouts. That's how naive I was. And so when my Cub Scout leaders all came running, and they all were white, and they huddled over me with their bodies and quickly escorted me out of the danger. I kept asking, well, why are they hitting me? Why are they hitting me? I didn't do anything. I didn't say anything to them. And they all they would do was say, shh, move along, hurry up, it'll be okay. So I never got the answer to my question. And when I returned home, my mother and father, who were not there, were cleaning me up and asking me, how did you fall down and get all scraped up? And I told them I didn't fall down. I told them what happened. And they sat me down for the first time in my life and explained to me what racism was. And I'm an only child, so I didn't have, big brothers and sisters to learn things from. I only had my parents. And I always relied on my parents to be honest and truthful with me, and they were. But on this day, when they told me why this was happening to me, I did not believe them. I literally thought my parents were lying to me because my 10-year-old brain could not comprehend the idea that someone who had never seen me, who had never spoken to me, who knew nothing about me, would want to hurt me for no other reason than the color of my skin. It just absolutely made no sense, given all the experience I had had prior to this with white people. White people, from the embassy, white people from all over the world. So the idea that my skin color upset white people was foreign to me. And I didn't know why they were lying to me, but they were definitely lying. And then about a month and a half later, that same year, April the 4th, 1968, Martin Luther King was assassinated. And every major city in this country burned to the ground with violence and destruction, all in the name of this new word that I learned about a month and a half ago called racism. So now I understood that my parents had not lied to me. This thing called racism does exist, but why? Why does it exist? Why do people hate somebody all because of their skin color? It still did not make any sense. So now I accepted the phenomenon, but I wanted to find out the reason, the science behind it. So I formed a question in my mind at the age of 10. How can you hate me when you don't even know me? Now, pause 1 second. I'm going to get something to drink, so my voice will open up again.
For sure.
All right. Thank you.
Too much singing the blues, yeah?
I'm telling you what.
I see all those instruments and records behind you because you're basically, first of all, you're a musician, right?
Correct.
Yes, and that was the dream you pursued for several years,
right?
Until that day in the bar after the gig.
Right. Now there were some more incidents prior to that day. And then I'll share one with you. For example, I was back home here in the States in 10th grade. I was in high school, and we had a class called the POTC, which stood for Problems of the 20th Century. And we had a great teacher. This was 1974. And the class was for seniors, for 12th graders, but I was taking it as a sophomore, as a 10th grader. And he would invite in controversial speakers of all different topics. And they would address our senior class, and we get to question them, etc. So on this day, he had the head of the American Nazi Party come to our class. Now,
oh, wow.
Yeah. Now, you could never get away with that today. But we're talking 1974. Times were much different then. Now, I'll be honest with you. I'm glad he did it. And I think today they should do the same thing. You know? Because this
imagine the Twitter feed after that.
Yeah. Yeah.
that would be really difficult to accomplish in this climate today.
Right. So now let me give you a little background on that. The American Nazi Party was formed about 30 minutes from where I'm sitting right now, right over the Potomac River in Arlington, Virginia. Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia, we all meet together. And was formed by a fellow named George Lincoln Rockwell, who was a big proponent of the ideology of Adolf Hitler. And he formed the American Nazi Party. Later on, as a kid, I would have one of his daughters as a school teacher. Now, she abhorred her father, disowned him, everything. No love there. Anyway, George Lincoln Rockwell was, like I said, a strong supporter of Hitler. And he used to fight with Martin Luther King all the time. Well, he was murdered by one of his own American Nazis. He got into an argument with the guy out on the sidewalk as he came out of a dry cleaner's, a laundromat or something. And so his right-hand guy, Matt Cole, took over the organization. So Matt Cole and his right-hand guy, Martin Kerr, came to my school this day in 1974. And they stood in front of the classroom and espoused all these views of white supremacy. And Matt Cole pointed at me and another black guy in the room and said, "We're going to ship you back to Africa."
Oh, shit.
Yeah. And they took his finger and went like this, a big sweeping motion, said, "And all you Jews out there, you're going to Israel. You're going back to Israel."
Wow.
Now, I was 15. And I just sat there looking at this guy like, what on earth is this man talking about? I didn't say anything. You know, my generation, we were raised to have respect for your elders as figures of authority. Whether you agree with them or not, you were to respect them.
Were you encouraged? Were you encouraged to challenge his ideas?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But my upbringing kind of, mitigated that. And so I just sat there looking at him. And later that day, I was standing in the hallway by my locker, and I was the only one in the hallway, and these guys were leaving, so they had to walk past me. So I turned around, I looked at them, and they paused right in front of me. They didn't say anything to me, but they glared and sneered at me, and then they started laughing, and they went on down the hall and out the door. Okay, that is what prompted me to really start to research this stuff. I began buying every book I could find on Black supremacy, on white supremacy, on anti-Semitism, on the Ku Klux Klan, on the Nazis in Germany, on the neo-Nazis over here. I want to find out, where does that ideology come from? I know you're not born with it. So where do you acquire it? Where is it going? How can it be addressed? Now, I have a vast library on this, and I've read every book. All the books talked about it, but none of the books explained why. Why? So my question was not answered. Now, let's skip ahead 8 years. 2 years after that incident, I graduated high school at age 18, 1976. I went right to college, and 4 years later, I graduated with my degree in music in 1980. Now, music became my profession, but studying race relations became my obsession.
Right.
And I had to do it on my own because there were no courses, Race 101. I mean, that doesn't even exist today. So it was all, self-educating. And I'd found out about an American Nazi Party rally that was going to take place in front of the White House, right across the street in Lafayette Park. Lafayette Park, anytime you go there, 24/7, 365 days a year, there's somebody protesting something. Okay, nuclear weapons, abortion, whatever. Somebody's always there, facing the White House. And so anyway, this Nazi rally demonstration was going to be a silent, unpublicized rally. They were going to come there and just stand. And nobody knew about it. It was unpublicized, not even the police. So had people known about it, they would have stormed the place. So I managed to find out about it. And I went down there. And back then, you could drive your car up and down Pennsylvania Avenue in front of the White House. Today, you cannot do that. Only law enforcement vehicles can drive. You can walk, but you can't drive. So back then, you could. So I went down there, parked my car, kind of catty corner to the White House, and I waited. 12 noon was the time they were coming. And it's lunchtime. So sure enough, right on time, this van pulls up. And about maybe 13, 15 of these American Nazis get out. Now, there was nothing that indicated that they were members of the American Nazi Party. There were no Gestapo uniforms, no swastikas, SS insignias, nothing. They all had on dark black suits. And there was Matt Cole and Martin Kerr, the same two guys who came to my high school 8 years ago, right? You never forget the face of somebody who tells you they're going to ship you somewhere, whether you like it or not. Or if you don't leave voluntarily, you will be exterminated. That's what they told one of the guys in my classroom who asked, what happens if they don't go? So Matt Cole got everybody lined up in a row facing the White House. And people like walking by on the sidewalk, not paying any attention because they don't know who they are. Except for me, I know who they are. So once they're all lined up, I got out of my car. I walked over there because now I feel like I have to confront Matt Cole. I did not confront him 8 years ago because of my upbringing. He was my elder. I'm a child. I'm 15 years old. At that time, he was probably in his 40s. So now I felt the need to confront him. Yes, he was still my elder, but I'm an adult now. I'm 2 years out of college. I'm 24 years old. So instead of it being child to adult, is now adult to adult. So I felt more at ease confronting him. So I walked right up to him and I said, Matt Cole. He jumped back like, oh my God, what's happening? You know, like some black guy is talking to him. And he says, do I know you? And I said, well, you spoke at my high school. And he looked at me, he goes, what high school would that be? I told him, he goes, oh, yes, 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 I remember you. That was a long time ago. I remember you. How can I help you? And I said, I said, it was 8 years ago. I said, do you recall what you told me? And he nodded, he goes, yes, I recall. What can I do for you? I said, well, I'm still here. And he says, well, I can see that. Well, how can I help you? I said, you can tell me just who the hell gives you the authority to make permanent travel arrangements for me. And he says, well, what's your name? I said, Daryl Davis. He put out his hand, he shook my hand, and he held my hand in his hand with his right hand, and he took his left finger and pointed it in my face. And he says, Mr. Davis, you have to understand one thing. It is in the interest of your race, the black race, to be a strong race. And you cannot be a strong race unless you are a pure race. And you cannot be a pure race if you are miscegenating with other races. It is in the interest of my race, the Aryan race, to also be a strong race. My race is committing genocide by miscegenating with mud races such as yours. We are becoming a mongrel race. So anybody who was not Aryan, or white, he calls whites Aryans, who was not Aryan, is a mud race. So he's concerned that his race is losing ground through miscegenation. And he went on telling me all this stuff. I wasn't there to beat him up or anything like that. I was there to learn from him. Not that I agreed with him, but I wanted to learn where the ideology comes from. So I thanked him, shook his hand again, and I left. And then that summer, oh, I don't know, in August or whatever, they had their national recruitment rally. The American Nazi Party did. So they had Nazis from all over the country coming. And they chose Washington, D.C. to have their rally, their recruitment rally. This was publicized for 3 months in advance. People wrote letters saying, do not give them a permit, so forth and so on, but you have to give them a permit. You know, they have the right to assembly, they have the right to freedom of speech, all that kind of stuff. So people came from, protesters came from Baltimore, Philadelphia, New York, Richmond, all over the area. And a lot of them came with baseball bats and chains and bricks. I mean, they came to fight. Well, the police had the Nazis protected. My secretary and I went down there, and a full-scale riot broke out. You know, people trying to attack the Nazis, the police trying to protect them, etc. So police cars got turned over, the windows got broken out, buildings got set on fire. I saw that whole thing firsthand right there. And now back then you did not have cable TV. It was just NBC, CBS, and ABC, the news networks. And that evening after the riot, I'm back home with my secretary and we're watching the news. And there's Matt Cole sitting in the studio and they're running the footage of the riot that day. And he's saying, you see, it's the blacks and the Jews who are destroying the police cars, and they don't have any law and order. This country is being run by ZOG, Z-O-G, ZOG, which stands for Zionist Occupied Government. And it was then that I realized, you know, this guy's ideology is stupid, but he is a very smart man.
Right.
He knew what he was doing. And because I kept trying to figure out why would the American Nazi Party have their national recruitment rally in Washington, D.C.? And then it all made sense. It didn't make sense before because Washington, D.C. is 2/3 black. There are no black people in D.C. who want to join the American Nazi Party. And there's certainly no Jews in Washington, D.C. or anywhere else that want to join the American Nazi Party. So why have it in D.C.? Because he knew that this riot would happen.
Right.
And then he would have official TV news footage of blacks and Jews destroying the place.
I mean, that strategy is still working. That media logic is still playing out. It's the same thing, but only worse. Right?
That's when I first saw it.
Yeah.
And then he would take that footage to the Pacific Northwest and say, you see what's happening in our nation's capital? The Jews and the blacks are taking over. Come join us. We'll take our country back. On and on and on, right?
Yeah.
So I then learned, that strategy. And then it was right after that, the following year in 1983 was when I was in the bar with the country band. And that I think you mentioned. I had just joined this country music band. And they'd been around for a while. And they were playing at this bar in Frederick, Maryland called the Silver Dollar Lounge. The Silver Dollar Lounge at the time was an all-white bar. I do not mean that non-whites could not go in, but black people did not go in there because they were not welcome. And when you have a bar that's known not to welcome black people and there's alcohol involved in there, it's not a good mix.
Right. You don't go.
Right. So anyway, the band had played there before, all-white country band. I'm the only black guy in the band. Well, it was my first time in there. And on the break after the first set, we were walking to the band table and somebody came up behind me and put their arm around my shoulder. And I turned around to see who was touching me. And this white gentleman says, I really like your all's music. I said, thank you. I appreciate that. And I shook his hand. And he said, this was the first time he'd seen me. And this was the first time he ever heard a black man play piano like Jerry Lee Lewis. And I was surprised that this guy who was older than me did not know the black origin of Jerry Lee's music. Mm. So I informed him that Jerry Lee Lewis learned that style from the same place I did, from black blues and boogie-woogie piano players. The man was incredulous. He did not believe me. He thought I was joking. I said, look, I know Jerry Lee Lewis personally. He's a very good friend of mine. The guy didn't believe that either. But he was fascinated enough with me that he wanted me to join him at his table for a drink. And I don't drink alcohol, but I went back to his table and I had a cranberry juice. So he pays the waitress. He takes his glass and he clinks my glass and cheers me. And he says, this is the first time I ever sat down and had a drink with a black man. And now I'm wondering, what's going on here? Something's not right here. And I said, why? And because I was very naive. I sit down with anybody. And I could not imagine this man, as old as he was, had never sat down with a black man before. I mean, where's he been, And so I said, why? He did not answer me. I asked him again. He just looked down at the top of the table. And he had a friend sitting next to him who elbowed him and said, tell him. I said, tell me. Because now I'm thinking, some big secret mystery. And he says, I'm a member of the Ku Klux Klan. Well, I started laughing at him because now I did not believe him. I mean, why would a Klansman, like I said, remember, I have every book written on the Klan. I know a lot about them. And they do not come up and just embrace a black man and want to hang out and buy him a drink. It does not work like that. So, okay, this guy's joking me. I don't know why he's joking me, but he's joking me. Because a Klansman would not be sitting at this table with me. So I'm laughing at him, going along with the joke. And he pulls out his wallet and hands me his Klan membership card. I recognize the Ku Klux Klan insignia, which is a red circle with a white cross and a red blood drop in the center of the cross.
Well, they actually have membership cards?
Oh, yeah. I've got a few of them.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
So, not that I'm a member, but anyway, I recognize it and I stop laughing because it's for real. Mm. And I give it back to him. And now I'm questioning myself, why am I sitting at this table? What's going on here? But he was very friendly. He was very complimentary of my playing, very interested in where I learned to play, etc. And bought me a drink. We began talking. And he gave me his number. And he wanted me to call him, whenever I was to come back and play here again. We were there like every 6 weeks because he wanted to bring his friends. his friends, meaning Klansmen and Klanswomen, to see this black man play like Jerry Lee Lewis. He just could not get over that. And I said, okay. So I would call him every 6 weeks. I call him on a Wednesday or Thursday and say, hey man, come on out this weekend and we'll give us $1. He'd come. He'd bring Klansmen and Klanswomen, and they would gather around and watch me play. And then on the break, I would usually go over to his table and say hello. Some of them were very curious about me. They'd hang out there. They want to meet me and talk to me. Others, they would see me coming. They'd get up and take off, go to some other part of the room. They want to watch me, but not deal with me. So, that's okay. So that went on for a few more months. And then I quit that band. I went back to playing rock and roll and blues and R&B and whatever else was going on in 1984. So I lost track of the guy. And then my mother passed away. And because, I was going to keep on doing my research. I wanted to write a book, etc. And she passed away, so that put everything on hold. But then it dawned on me, Daryl, the answer to your question that has been plaguing you since age 10, how can you hate me when you don't even know me? The answer fell into your lap, and you didn't even realize it. Who better to ask that question of than someone who would go so far as to join an organization that has over 100-year history of practicing hating people who do not look like them and who do not believe as they believe. You need to get back in contact with that Klansman and get him to connect you with the Klan leader and so forth and so on, and then write your book, interview all these Klan people, go up north, go down south, start right here in Maryland, go to the Midwest, go to the West, interview different Klan people, and you'll have your answer and put it in the book. That's how that journey started.
Was there any doubt at any given moment? Was there any doubt in your mind that were you afraid? Were you thinking I might not be? I shouldn't be doing this. They could kill me on the spot. They could, this is wrong. Or did you just go with that kind of?
I just went with it. No, I was not afraid. And people find that interesting, and some people don't believe me, but it's true. I was not afraid. And why? I don't know the real answer, but I would speculate it's because of my upbringing. I'd been around so many different people and cultures all over the world as a child that I just viewed the Klan as another culture. Now, had I grown up here in my own country and not had that exposure at an early age to different people, maybe I never would have pursued that project. Maybe I would have been afraid. Is that what I'm saying? Yeah. But because as a youngster, I lived in Africa, I lived in Europe, when you combine my travels as a child with my parents in the Foreign Service, combined with my travels today as an adult musician who performs all over the world, I have been now in a total of 57 different countries on 6 continents. So I've literally been exposed to a multitude of religions, cultures, colors, nationalities, ethnicities, and all of that has helped shape my perspectives and who I've become. So I just viewed the Klan and neo-Nazis as another culture, nothing to fear, because there are people who do not wear robes and hoods, but who feel the same way.
Of course.
Yeah, they might wear a uniform and a badge and a gun. They might wear a suit and tie. They might wear a Hawaiian shirt and Bermuda shorts. So,
I mean, when I first saw the documentary, Accidental Courtesy, one of the questions that popped into my mind was, is the Ku Klux Klan really the problem here? Is that really a large organization to focus on, or is the white supremacist movement changing its costume? How does the numbers look like? I mean, is the Klan still growing?
Okay. the whole thing, the whole umbrella,
Mm-hmm.
is called white supremacy.
Right.
The Klan was the first organization and the largest ever. At its peak, it had 4 million members.
And when was the peak?
The late 1920s, early 30s.
All right.
Okay, they had 4 million members, and then it came down. But it was formed in 1865. So now it's been around for 155 years. The term and out of the Klan were born splinter groups and different organizations, different white supremacist organizations. But the Klan was the root, the foundation that gave birth to these other ones. The Klan itself today is not growing by leaps and bounds, but there are a lot more groups of different variety with the same ideology.
Right.
Okay. Now, when it first started out, the ideology was called white supremacy. I'm a white supremacist. I believe in white supremacy. All right. Well, so do I. Okay, so sign me up. So now I'm a member of this Klan group. It grew and grew. And then it became very, very violent, extremely violent. That it got so violent that the U.S. Congress had to pass laws. And in 1871, the U.S. Congress passed what were called the Ku Klux Klan Acts of 1871. And that drove the Klan underground. And then it was born again or revitalized in 1915. There was a movie called Birth of a Nation. And then it exploded. And that's when it really got its large membership. Now, again, here comes the violence. So people began dropping out. There were plenty of white people who did not like Black people, who did not like Jewish people, but they did not want to murder them. They did not want to participate in these atrocities, either for moral reasons or for legal reasons. So they began dropping out. The membership went down. And so the term white supremacy had a bad taste. People did not want to associate with that name. So the Klan had to rebrand because the term white supremacy was no longer palatable. So they changed it to white separatism. I'm a white separatist. I don't hate Black people. I don't hate Jewish people. They can have their own neighborhood, their own schools, their own workplaces, their own whatever, and we should be able to have ours. That way we don't mix. Oh yeah, I like that idea. I don't want to kill Black people. I don't hate them, but I don't want my kids marrying them. Yeah, I'm a white separatist. Sign me up. So now they rejoin the Klan and the membership grows, right? Mm-hmm. White separatism, that's the key.
It's just a change of rhetorics, right?
Yeah. No change of ideology, just change of name, all right? So the more people you get in there, the more idiots you get in there, and the violence comes back, all right? People start dropping off again. They start bombing churches, lynching people, so people began dropping out. Membership goes down. So now white supremacy, white separatism are bad words. I don't like Black people. I don't like Jews, but I don't want to be associated with being known as a white separatist or white supremacist. It's bad for my reputation. So they changed the name. Again, white nationalist. I'm a nationalist. I love my country, and I'm white. So I'm a white nationalist. Yeah, I like that idea. Sign me up. It grows again. Here comes the violence. Membership goes down. So now they come up with a new name. The current name is alt-right. But, there's a cliche, a saying, that a rose by any other name is still a rose. White supremacy by any other name is still white supremacy. You can call it white separatism. You can call it white nationalism. You can call it the alt-right. It's still the same thing. If you love your country, you're a patriot, you're a nationalist. So why do you have to define your color? Should I be a black nationalist? Should I be a white nationalist? Why not just be a nationalist? You love your country. But when you put that word white in front of it, it says something.
It does. And I mean, so watching the documentary, seeing you meeting with all these men and women from the KKK, mostly men, I mean, connected to the work that me and my friends do here in Sweden, I get hopeful, I get really inspired. I mean, the documentary is just, you know, filling me with a lot of energy. But there's this one scene that makes me so sad, and I lose all hope. Can you guess which one?
Oh, I know.
Because
I intentionally wanted that scene. No, you only saw 8 minutes. Okay, that scene went on for just over an hour. Yeah, and it almost came to physical violence.
I mean, it's the only part of the story. I mean, the only part of the documentary when I see you lose your face, when I see you actually getting angry, and you're sitting down with people who hate you and don't want you in their country. But it's when you meet your peers or potential peers where it all blows up.
Well, correction. I was not getting angry. I was very disappointed.
Right, but something changes. So just to set the scene for the listeners, can you just tell us what happened?
Okay.
Yeah.
What happened? The scene that Navid is talking about in the documentary called "Accidental Courtesy" was took place in Baltimore, where I met with some people of the Baltimore group Black Lives Matter, and they vehemently disagreed with me and my methods. And of my interacting with white supremacists, sitting down and talking with Klan members, and the fact that some of them had quit and given me their robes and hoods, that was just very, very foreign to them. They did not believe that a white supremacist could change, and that I was selling out. I was wasting my time. I should be helping the Black community rather than spending time with white supremacists. And it's not a Black man's job to teach white people how to treat us.
Yeah.
That was the basic message of that scene, and it became very hostile and very negative, where I was threatened never to come back to Baltimore. They walked out. I tried to shake their hands. They didn't want to shake my hands. They threatened me, "Don't come back to Baltimore. Go hang out with your Klan buddies," and all sorts of kind of stuff. I called one of them ignorant in the film because I felt that he was ignorant. Now, when I use the word ignorant, I mean that not in a derogatory sense, but in a sense that this person is unaware of their history, unaware of what's going on out here. There's a difference between ignorance and stupidity. And I think it's very important that it be defined. An ignorant person is someone who makes a wrong decision or a bad choice because he or she does not have the facts to make the right decision. A stupid person is someone who has the facts and still makes the wrong decision. All right, so you can cure ignorance. Ignorance is cured by education. Unfortunately, there's no cure for stupidity. If you give somebody the education and they don't use it, there's nothing you can do.
So tell me, how come you were disappointed in that situation?
I was disappointed because they were ignorant. Nobody has a monopoly on ignorance. White people don't have it. Black people don't have it. We all have ignorance. All right, and we all have our share of things that we need to learn.
Yeah.
And to behave as racists, those guys were just as racist as anybody in the Klan.
And but I bet you met a lot of ignorant people. I mean, you met a lot of aggressive people. You met people who maybe didn't even want to meet you. How come this particular situation was so sensitive?
It was because they felt that because we shared the same color, that we have to agree with one another, or that I should agree with them. And that's not the case. I found them to be very uneducated, very, very uninformed. And here is the hypocrisy. They go down to the police station and protest against the police whenever the police shoot some unarmed black man or arrest him, and next thing you know, the guy's dead before he gets to the jail. They throw him around in the back of the van. They mentioned Freddie Gray. I know that story very well. In fact, I won't get into that right now. But yes, the Baltimore City Police are very corrupt. In fact, one of the Klansmen that I befriended was a Baltimore City cop.
Yeah.
Not only do I have his Klan robe and hood, I also have his police uniform. And he has told me some things that would make your hair turn that he did as a police officer against black people, as a Klansman against black people. Okay, he confessed many things to me that I won't get into, but he went on to become one of my best friends. Now that's something that those guys don't understand. Okay, is he exonerated and forgiven for all the things that he did? No, absolutely not. But he turned his life around and admitted to his wrongdoing. That is very important. People can change. If you have no hope for that people can change, then why do you march up and down the street carrying signs and saying no justice, no peace? Why do you protest in front of the police department unless you hope things can change? If you have no hope. So then when somebody does change, you say, no, I don't believe it. It's hypocrisy. And furthermore, the reason why you were there protesting by the police department and protesting the police is because you want to teach the police how to treat black people. Because we are being mistreated. I agree with that 100%. And those cops need to be taught how to treat people. Well, so how do you say to me, I shouldn't be teaching Klansmen how to treat black people, but yet you're going to go teach police how to do it? What's the difference? And you got Klan on the police force. There's the hypocrisy right there.
So you believe that anyone can change, right?
I believe, yes, I believe that anyone can change, but I believe that there will be people who will never change. I'm not so naive as to think everybody's going to change. There will be people, black and white or whatever else, who will go to their grave being hateful, violent, and racist. There is no change in them whatsoever. But if somebody of that ideology is willing to sit down and have a conversation with you, there is the opportunity to plant a seed. And hopefully, as you nourish that seed, change is occurring. And I have proven that can work. I have the physical evidence and the people to prove it.
Now, do you believe that those three men that you met in Baltimore, those three members of the Black Lives Matter movement, do you believe that they can change their opinion about you as well?
Well, here's what happened. About a year later, they reached out to me. And they said, hey, because they've been seeing me in the media, whatever. And they said, hey, let's get together and talk. And we got together, we had dinner together. And we hit it off pretty well. And we agreed to do some work together. So we bonded through dialogue, etc. And then just a couple months ago, I've gotten together with one of the guys in the movement, and it did not go very well. It went right back to that scene.
The same guy.
The same guy.
Yeah.
And one of them, the older guy.
Yeah.
And it went right back to that scene in the bar. He just did not understand. He just could not accept it because he's so immersed in his own ignorance and does not want to see progress. When progress hits him, he's in denial of it, which is very, very unfortunate. We all have work to do. That's why it was important for me to have that scene in the movie to show racism is a multifaceted problem in this country. We have to not only fight them, but fight amongst ourselves to get on the same page and address this. There is no one way to address racism. There are many facets to it, and each one has to be addressed. We all have to work together. They have to do what they have to do to combat racism. I have to do what I have to do, and somebody else has to do what they have to do. But we all have to work together. We all want the same result. And it's important that we each do our job and coordinate with each other, because they are as important as I am to the cause. And that other person is as important as I am and they are to the cause. All right? So it's, to me, it's like, let me give you an example.
Mm-hmm.
If your next door neighbor is having a fight with his wife, and you hear pots and pans flying and yelling and screaming, you call the police.
Yeah.
So usually 2 uniform officers are going to show up, and they're going to knock on the door. They're going to go in. One officer is going to take the wife to the kitchen, other officers to take the husband to the bedroom or whatever, and they're going to get the stories, and then they're going to compare them, and then they're going to tell them, hey, look, you all need to calm down. If you don't calm down, we're going to come back and we're going to lock you up. And so then they leave. Now, that's how that works. But now let's say same neighbors. The guy loses his job or whatever. We hear this all the time. Husband gets deranged, comes home, he's holding his wife and kids hostage. We hear these stories all the time. And he shoots his wife, shoots his kids, and then usually he shoots himself. This is a crazy hostage situation, domestic. So now the police are called. But it's not just those 2 uniform officers who come. They come, but they don't go to the front door, because now you got a very dangerous situation. They stand back with a bullhorn, say, hey, let your wife go, open your door, come out, blah, 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 right? They're there. There's also another division of the police department that's there. It's called the SWAT team.
Right. And
they come, they're at your front door, they're at your back door, they're at your side window trying to look in. They might even drop down from a helicopter on top of your roof. They got your house surrounded, all right? So you got the 2 uniform officers, the SWAT team, and then there's another guy from the police department. He's there. He's on the telephone trying to call you and trying to talk to you, hey, let one of your children go. Let 2 of them go. But the hostage negotiator, right? Yeah. Each one of them has a job to do. And it's a different job, but they all are coordinating with each other. Right. If the 2 uniform guys can get you to come out with the bullhorn, everybody goes with that. The negotiator on the phone says, hold your fire, hold down. I think we come to an agreement. Everybody be cool. Then we go with that. If the sharpshooter on the SWAT team can get a bullseye on your head and take you out without hurting your wife and your children, guess what? You're gone. End of story. Whoever has the best one at that particular moment is where they go. But they all are coordinating. And that's what these people don't understand. They're concerned that I'm wasting my time dealing one-on-one with people instead of addressing the systemic racism.
So which one are you? Which one are you in this analogy?
I'm the hostage negotiator.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it all needs to be done. Everybody has a role. So I do what I do best. They should do what they do best, but don't denigrate the other people who are doing their job.
But I mean, these different parts, the negotiator, the guys at the door, the police officers, they all have to agree that they're one unit. That's the premise, right?
Exactly.
I mean, if one identifies as a firefighter and one as a cop, we have a problem.
Right.
Right. So that's the basic premise. I mean, I've been through the same situation. I know exactly what you mean. So being the negotiator is a more of an abstract, preemptive, like it's another kind of task.
Exactly. But it was important to show, because a lot of white people, and I don't mean this to be insulting or anything like that, but I'm just stating the facts. A lot of white people seem to think that that Black people all think alike, we all vote alike, we all know each other, we all even look alike. Some of them think that, but and that we have these leaders. Well, your Black leaders say blah blah blah. I don't have a Black leader. You know, I mean, what if I say, you know, your white leader says such and such? Well, people will say, well, who's my white leader? Well, who's my black leader?
Right.
You know, they think that every black person listens to Al Sharpton, or every black person listens to Jesse Jackson, you know, or every black person voted for Obama. You know, black people are as individual as white people. So it was important to show that racism is a bigger problem than we realize. It's not just white people who disagree, it's also black people. So I want to show that in the film as well.
So how many Klan members have quit because of you until today?
I would say just over 200.
200? Oh, wow.
Yes.
You don't have 200 robes in your garage?
No, I don't have 200 robes. Today I have probably about 54, 52 robes and hoods, but I have a ton of other stuff. I have Klan flags, belt buckles, certificates, applications, all kinds of things associated with the Klan, not just robes and hoods.
And are you still adding
yes, I
cards to your collection?
I just got one about a couple weeks ago.
Okay, right. And do you have like a final chapter? Is there like an end game to this? When are you satisfied?
No, there's no. I mean, I foresee the end of racism one day. It probably won't be in my time or your time, you know, but it will end one day. And hopefully, you know, well, I know I've made a small dent.
For sure.
But, you know, is it going to end, you know, with me? Am I the end all? No, absolutely not. And, you know, a lot of the criticism I get is because of my unconventional method. Well, guess what? The KKK and this stuff has been around since 1865. Conventional methods have not worked. But guess what? Mine is working. It may be a little slow, but at least it's working.
Right.
So, you know, anytime you do something that is new, that is not the status quo, you are subject to a lot of criticism. You know, Copernicus, for example, we here on Earth, we Earthlings, with our egos, thought that we were the center of the universe,
right,
and the sun revolved around us. And Copernicus said no. The astronomer, he said no. The Earth revolves around the sun, and so did Galileo. And he was put in prison for saying that.
I know.
He was called a heretic, crazy. Yeah. Well, guess what? He was right. Okay. Now, somebody who I don't respect, Christopher Columbus, he said the Earth was round. Everybody else said it was flat, but he was right. So he got a lot of criticism. He's going to fall off the horizon, you know, with his ships. But he was right. Now, he didn't discover America, as far as I'm concerned, and he was not a good person, as far as I'm concerned. But his theory was right. So whenever you do something that goes against the majority, you are subject to a lot of criticism, and that's where I am right now. But that's okay.
I mean, maybe not everyone can have the courage to befriend Klan members, but if you could give just a piece of advice to our listeners, what's something that anyone could do to help this train moving?
Okay. Very, very simple. There's nothing complex about what I do. I find that in this country, we spend way too much time talking about the other person, or talking at the other person, or talking past the other person. Why don't we just spend a few minutes talking with the other person? And that can open up a lot of doors and a lot of answers to a lot of unanswered questions, and expose a lot of untruths. Because at the end of the day, everybody wants the same thing. People want to be loved. They want to be respected. You know, they want for their family like you want for your family. And that can be achieved a lot quicker if we work together rather than work against one another.
Daryl, I'm so happy we actually made this conversation happen. So I really appreciate you taking the time. I know you have a busy schedule, so I'm going to let you go.
My pleasure. Let's consider this part one.
Yeah, for sure. I love to talk more, brother. I mean, we're in the same line of work. we're trying to create this dent here in Sweden and Scandinavia. I know you're still moving strong, so I'll support you in any way I can.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
And if you're in the neighborhood, I mean, if you're in Europe or in Scandinavia, we'd love to have you.
Before.
Yeah,
I've been to Stockholm, and I would love to come back sometime.
We would love to have you.
Okay.
And just before we end the conversation, we always ask our guests to recommend someone they would like to hear on the podcast. So, who would you want us to invite to have a conversation with?
Okay. Well, you remember in the movie, Jeff Scoop. He was the head of the National Socialist Movement, the largest neo-Nazi organization.
Right.
He and I were having the conversation in the bar. We talked about
music.
And, Elvis Presley and Chuck Berry and Black people who invented peanut butter and all that, right?
Yeah.
Guess what? He has left. He has left the movement, and he and I are good friends, and I'm sure he'd be very happy to come on here and speak with you. And if you like, I will give you or give him your email, connect you guys, and take it
I
from
will
you
love
both.
that for sure. Yes, please do.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be an amazing guest to have on the podcast. I would love that.
Okay.
I've had several ex-Nazis and people who were previously engaged in the white supremacist movement here in Sweden on the Swedish podcast. So I would love to have his perspective on that.
Okay, sounds good. I'll hook it up.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
To all the listeners, go and see Accidental Courtesy and also watch Daryl's. You had 4 TED Talks, right? I've seen 2.
Yeah, 4 TED Talks.
I've seen 2 of them. Brilliant.
Okay.
Very
You
inspirational.
remember which ones you saw?
I saw you had a locker behind you, and I believe
Okay,
you
that
had
was
one of those.
Naperville.
Yeah.
That was Naperville. There's also TEDx Charlottesville, Daryl Davis.
Yeah.
Cape May and Big Sky, Montana. Look up Daryl Davis TEDx Big Sky. I think
And they're all on YouTube, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Daryl Davis TED Talk on YouTube, and the documentary is called Accidental Courtesy. And also, can we hear your music anywhere?
Absolutely. You can hear it on YouTube. You can hear it on Amazon, CD Baby. Wherever.
Wonderful. Plug it.
Better yet, just bring me. I'll do a live concert.
Oh, that would be awesome. Daryl, brother, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I hope to talk to you soon, and good luck with your valuable and important work.
Thank you. Take care.
You too, brother. Thanks.